I have just finished watching episode 4 of the first season of The Bad Batch, and I gotta say, this episode was definitely better than the third episode. I gotta say, it was much better, it was pretty good, and yeah. So, I'm going to be reviewing it alongside my best friend, Oppo Ranscisis. So, yeah, join me, Lucas Prime, and Oppo Ranscisis as we review the fourth episode of Bad Batch titled Cornered. So, anyway, cue the intro. So, I'm going to let Operantis share his thoughts on the episode first. So, yeah, I'll be playing his review. And, guys, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to his channel because he deserves lots of support. And, yeah, I recommend you guys to go check him out. So, yeah, I will put the link to his channel in the description below. So, please go check him out, go subscribe, and give him love support. So, yeah. Anyway, take it away, Oppo.
We are here to review The Bad Batch. And today's episode, which was of course episode 4, was quite phenomenal, I think. In fact, it's competing with episode 2 for being my favorite episode in the series thus far. I mean, story-wise, design-wise, character-wise, everything. As I like to say, we're not really going in order, so let's just start. Well, Lucamus does, but in my reviews, I don't really go in order, I just hop around. So let's start with something random. And I think that the thing that comes to mind first is Fennec's sort of theme that we hear in this episode, which is fantastically composed, I assume by either Sean Kiner or Kevin Kiner. That little, I'm not sure if it was a violin or something, but there was this kind of sort of twisted, sort of romantical, and very dangerous. It really represents how dangerous she is. Hearing that theme, it instantly creeps you out. It has your nerves destroyed. I mean, in some sense, it reminds me of the Peter Pettigrew's theme from Harry Potter 3. The one that goes da 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 da. Because it gives the same kind of creepy feeling, and I think it really fits Shannick. In fact, I was not expecting to like Shannick so much going into this, and I did not expect her to be such a dangerous adversary and such a threat either, but she is, and that's fantastic. I think this is an improvement on her character over The Mandalorian, though she is more likable in The Mandalorian, I'll say that much. The sound design is phenomenal. I love how we once more had the police car sound effect from the Clone Wars were used for the Pantoran police, and all of the explosions, all of the droid little movements really stuck out to me this time around. The coins, the credits, and it was fantastic, and I was so happy we got to revisit Pantora, which is not Pandora, not Avatar now. Pantora, which is of course the planet that Chiikwe, who is played by Katie Lucas, and Baron Papanoida, who's played by George Lucas, come from. Their species, the Pantorans. And I was very happy that we got to see this particular planet again. And I believe Lucas pointed out that there is some similarity to Indian architecture. And I can definitely see that. But to me, what really stuck out about it is some of the towers really reminded me of the Kremlin. Right here in Moscow, the Kremlin, one of our main one of our main thing. I can't find the word. Lost it. But it really reminded me of the Kremlin, really, and of ancient Russian architecture. And Pantora was originally supposed to appear in the Clone Wars, in fact, but all of its scenes got cut out from Season 3, Episode 4, which was a real shame, but we got to see it finally here, and it was fantastic that we got to see fantastic design, everything. Fantastic to see the Pantorians again, and I really liked I forgot the name of the species right now, but the free-eyed kind of goat-looking vendor this time around. He had a very charming personality. It really reminds me of characters like for example, Dex or Watto or Drugan from the Clone Wars, who was like, my grandma always told me, don't watch your credits. So while I was watching my health, someone stole my credits. That character really reminds me. I'm getting those market kind of feels, and I really enjoyed it. And in the end, how he was overthrown by Echo pretending to be a droid, that was hilarious. Really, it was. So that was, in fact, that entire part was funny. And I believe that it was actually Grey Griffin who was doing the voice of the protocol droid. And I was very happy to have her back once again in Star Wars. She did fantastic as that protocol droid, and the design of it was fantastic, and it was very funny. The whole droid humor can either really land for me or really fell flat. This one landed, completely landed. But just, Fennec was such a dangerous person in this episode because she literally kidnapped a child. She did all of these terrible things, so you instantly know she's very dangerous. She's an enemy to look out for. Then also I would like to point out that those cute little cuddly things from Star Wars Resistance, the little pets, the little cat-looking fat things that Toradoza has, they returned and they're so cute! And they were what distracted Amiga from, obviously, and that's why she ran away. That's where Fennec caught her. And Fennec is smart. That's something else I will give her for this episode. What else? What else is there to say? Really liked Wrecker again. Hunter. Really, I'm liking these characters more and more. I didn't expect to like them so much because I didn't particularly enjoy them too much in the Clone Wars. But here, oh my goodness, I'm loving them more and more and more and more. I don't know how they are doing this. I don't know how they are pulling this off. But yes, this was pretty much my review. Is there anything to say? Well, I already said about Fennec's theme. Also, the Celestin. It was a Celestin, right? I really loved the Celestin. He was such a despicable little swine character. Really disgusting. But he served his purpose really well. He was this evil, terrible, greedy, corrupt person. And I really thought that Fennec was... they built it up like she was going to kill him, which was intentional, but she didn't, which was quite funny in a way. But he reminded me of Mr. Borkus from Season 5 of the Clone Wars. In fact, his design looked better, you know, it was more realistic, and it was a bit more stretched out, more interesting, and more unique. But yes, that's pretty much the episode. Fantastic episode, as always. Not too much has happened in general of the story, but we got a good introduction to Fennec Shand, and everything else was pretty interesting and kept me invested. So, fantastic episode, and thank you for having me, Lucas.
Alright, so it's now up to me to review it. So, yeah. So what's the episode about? So, the episode begins with the Marauder flying in space, and they're running low on supplies for Bad Batch, so yeah. And Hunter wants to go to a place called Idaflaw, I think it was called, yeah, Idaflaw, I think it is, yeah. But Wrecker says that it is not inhabited by anything, so yeah. Hunter thinks it'd be a good place to hide because there's nothing there, but Omega has grown tired of being on Kamino, and but Hunter wants to lay low basically. But then Tech lets them know that they're out of fuel and rations, and they're on their own now, yeah, because they're no longer serving the Republic as well. And Echo also lets them know as well that that their ship is on the wanted list. So basically, that's going to be a problem for them in case if they run into the Empire. So they decide to land on the nearest planet, which is Pantora. So yeah, for those of you that are unaware, this is the same planet in which George Lucas's character from Avengers Safe called Lutski Papanoides from, you know, his species. This is their planet, basically, Pantora. So yeah, and we do see his species as police officers, as a matter of fact, which is pretty cool. They're police officers. So they land on Pantora and they enter a large city which is surrounded by lots of mountains and valleys. And I gotta say, I liked the design of this city, guys. It reminded me an awful lot of, like, you know, Indian architecture, like the Taj Mahal, for example. It was very nice, actually. Very well designed. So, yeah, as they're entering the city, Wrecker is mourning about being hungry. But Tech reminds them that their main priority is to repair his ship, of course. And they're greeted by Sullustan, so the same species as Nia and Num, which is pretty cool. And who asks if for repairs, and Tech replies that they need a minor collaboration and fuel. So yeah. Now Now, the Sullustan says that he can scam the ship, but Wrecker stares him down. So the Sullustan offers to skip the step for a bribe. Basically, yeah, if he gets paid. So Tech then pays the manager some money and returns to his office. And then he goes to a computer screen and files a report identifying himself as Ranscisis at Raw Station. But then after that, he tells a familiar face, an armored bounty hunter, that he has sighted an Omicron cross-attack shuttle before requesting payment. And guys, the female bounty hunter was none other than Fennec from Mandalorian, Fennec Shand. Yeah, she was in this episode, and I was like, oh wow, she's here. And I wasn't surprised to see her because Ming-Na Wen herself confirmed that she'd be reprising her role as Fennec in the show when it was first announced. When they first announced, the deal about the baker and she was going to be in it, yeah, she confirmed it herself that she was going to be in the show. So yeah. And and it appears as though she wants Omega as well. So yeah. And this Sullustan is called Ranscisis. Yeah, that's what he's called, yeah. And she doesn't want the clones to leave either, so yeah. And then she takes a ship into hyperspace to go to Pantora. So back at the station, the Gonk droid is carrying tools while Wrecker is unloading explosives. And he's unhappy about selling their armaments, but Hunter says they need to sell things so we can get money to buy food. And Wrecker is annoyed about having to repair while the others are going sightseeing in the city. And and they move in and out of the city quickly to on their supply run. And Echo also puts on armor to cover his face as well. So yeah, and the clone's unaware that they're being watched by the Sullustan. So yeah, and Omega's very curious about his marketplace in the city. It was a pretty cool market actually. It was very diverse, full of lots of different species and droids. It was really nice. And Omega's also wondering why there's a celebration happening where the clones are marching and the civilians are cheering. And Omega asks Hunter, and Hunter tells her it's because they're celebrating the end of the war. So yeah. And then we also then see a hologram of the Vice Admiral Rampart, who of course has appeared in several episodes before. He's encouraging civilians to register for chain codes and to exchange the Republic currency for Imperial credits at no cost. So this makes Hunter think they should be quick with their supply run. And Omega then asks him if the end of the war is good, and Echo says it depends on whose side we're on, either the good side or a bad side, yeah. So, and then back at the Raw Station, while this is happening, Wrecker is removing a panel from the Marauder while Tech is shining a light inside, and he says that the signature key should be embedded below the rear parallax investors, and then Wrecker proceeds to remove a piece of machinery. Now, meanwhile, however, Omega is inspecting a device at a shop while Hunter is trying to sell an explosive for some credits to a merchant, which appears to be the same species as, I think it's called Re-Yeast. I think it's called a Gran. Gran, yeah, I think it's called, yeah. And the Gran tells him to sell it at a black market. And while he's doing this, Omega accidentally knocks over a metal container. And, so yeah. And while Omega's showing Echo her Tuka doll, which Wrecker gave her, the Gran watches them, and he thinks that Echo's a droid because he's got full armor on. And yeah, he thinks it's a droid because he's got prosthetic vision, so he can't really see very well, basically. And he proposes selling Echo, basically, for credits. Echo is reluctant to do this, but Hunter tells him that, once they get supplies, he'll give him a signal to leave. And Echo reluctantly agrees and goes into like a storage area. Basically. And while this is happening, Omega then takes interest in several little creatures. And they look like little puppies, basically. And but while she's patting them, one of them nicks her doll. And yeah, and she chases after it. Because they're in like a little craft that's moving, so she chases them. But unbeknownst to her, she's being watched by Fennec, so yeah, that's not good, is it? So the Gran pays Hunter the money before leading him away, but then Hunter says Omega's missing and chases after her. Luckily, one of the creatures spits out her doll, but when she retrieves it, she bumps into a species that tells her to be careful. I think it was a goat, I think it is, yeah. But then she turns around and it's Fennec. So yeah, Fennec meets her, and Fennec asks her if she's lost and offers to help her. And then they go for a walk, basically, yeah. So the Grand takes Echo to meet his droid crew, which is a protocol droid, and if you ask about droids, and the other who has some, like, arms as well, which is called Clink, yeah, called Clink. Now, what was curious about the droids, guys, is I noticed that while the astronaut droids have the same, design as a basic R2 unit in the Clone Wars, the protocol droid did not look like the TW design. It looked like the Rebels design of C-3PO. So, like, I'm thinking, why have they done this? So, yeah. I was really curious to know why they changed the design of the protocol droid, considering they use the same animations for Clone Wars in this show. So, yeah. Now, the protocol droid realises that Echo is not a droid and wants to report him, but he raises a blaster and threatens her. Now, luckily, Hunter finds the doll, and then this leads into Omega, and she's walking with Fennec, who shoplifts some food for her when she's hungry. And Omega is surprised by this and a bit concerned, especially when she notices that Fennec has got her gun on her. And Fennec says it's okay to break rules sometimes, so yeah. And as they're conversing, Hunter soon finds them and tells Omega to get away from Fennec, but then after that, this leads to a standoff between Fennec and Hunter, and they have a gunfight. And Omega flees in the struggle, but then Shand Fennec headbutts him, and then she escapes as the police arrive. And yeah, this leads to a pretty cool chase, actually, in the city. It was pretty good, actually. Very well visualised as well, especially with the music as well, definitely. It was really good. And Omega hides from them in, like, the sewage, and she comes across Wrecker, but unfortunately Fennec finds them again. And Wrecker gets Fennec out of the sewers while he buys her time by fighting, but unfortunately he gets defeated by Fennec. And then Omega climbs up some sort of tower in the city. But then she's about to fall, however, and luckily Fennec saves her. And then Hunter gets on like a speeder, and he flies up to rescue Omega. And but Fennec chases them in a vehicle, flying vehicle, and yeah. But luckily Hunter puts a bomb on it, which detonates it, and it causes her to knock off, and she falls off into the streets. So yeah. So they luckily escape Fennec, and they then got on to and then they got on back to the ship, and luckily and Echo's convinced the droids to repair the ship with them. So yeah, at the cost of not telling the Gran about who Echo really is. And they do pass the Gran, and luckily Omega's able to get rid of him, yeah. And yeah, the droids repair the ship, and after that, Wrecker and Echo then let the droids go and escape. So yeah, that was nice. Luckily, they got to escape. And the protocol droid resumes her authority. Now, then, when Hunter and Omega return to a hangar, they get onto it, and they escape. And unfortunately, the Sullustan tries to stop them, but fails. And he's annoyed he's not been paid, basically. And Hunter lets Omega know that while they're in space, that the opponent was a bounty hunter, but he doesn't know who she is, and they don't know her. And he tells her what a bounty hunter is, with someone who hunts targets and they get paid, and that Omega's the target. And Wrecker's like, don't scare the child. And Hunter's, wondering who it is and who hired her. And meanwhile, Fennec confronts the Sullustan, who tells her that he tried to stop them, and she throws him a cylinder, one of those comlink ink things, and says, to contact her if they return. And she then speaks into a helmet to someone, saying that her target got away, but she vows to find Omega. So, like, I'm wondering, who did she contact at the end? Who was it? I'm very curious to know who she contacted, but all in all, this was very enjoyable to watch. It was definitely better than the previous episode, and very enjoyable. Like, it wasn't boring this time. It didn't drag. It was really fun to watch. Very exciting, especially because Fennec came back, because she's one of my favourite characters from Mandalorian, most definitely. It was nice to see her in this, so yeah. Now, one thing that people are probably wondering is, why does she look almost the same as she does in the Bad Batch in Mandalorian, which is many years later after Return of the Jedi? Well, you gotta bear in mind, guys, but, the character does get older, but the thing is, Ming-Na Wen she does look young for her age because she's in her 50s now, but she looks really young for her age, basically, yeah, so I've got to clear that up, yeah. She looks way younger in her 50s, I'm telling you. She looks really healthy, which is pretty cool. So guys, this was me reviewing season 1 episode of A Bad Batch with Oppo Ranscisis, and this was called Cornered. So you know a drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to comment what you guys thought of this episode of A Bad Batch. Also, be sure to subscribe to mine and Oppo's channels for more videos coming also in the future. And may the force be with you always.